All right, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Truth, Trust, and Trajectory with your girl, Shakim B. Today, I'm going to be having a really exciting conversation with Bam D. So he's a poet, two-time author, as well as an advocate for men's mental health. I'm going to bring him to the stage so he can introduce himself, and then we're going to jump into the conversation. I have to fix the the live YouTube stream, so I'm going to bring him up so he can go ahead and introduce himself. What's up?
What up? What up?
How are you?
I'm good. How you?
Not bad, not bad. All right, so do you want to just give like a quick introduction while I play around with this here?
Yeah, that's fine.
All
So
right.
I'm Bam Woods. I'm also known as D.ThePoet. I actually get D.ThePoet from Anderson.Pack. A lot of people don't know that the dot is spoken in his name. So
Okay, I
that's
love that.
that's something a little, I guess people would call it a bite, but I don't. I take a lot of inspiration from music artists. And that is probably where a lot of my poetry stems from. A lot of Tupac, a lot of I guess you would say Stevie Wonder influences, things like that.
Okay. All right. So like when did you like develop your passion for like poetry? What like incited that?
Honestly, I've been writing my whole life. Since about third grade, I can remember teachers taking my writings and always bringing them to my mom saying like, hey, submit his work for this and that. And even though we never really like pursued that early on, I always kept it in the back of my mind. So when I started to process my own traumas and things like that, and I didn't have people to turn to, it was just like, oh, I already know what to do. Let me just
Okay.
take this ink and put it on pad and see what happens with it.
Okay. All right. So you wrote two books, like you're an author. Tell me about that.
Yes. Yes. My first book is Curse at 1976 Eden Place and Ode. And the second one is The Darkest Rose and Ode. They're both odes to not only the experiences but specific people and just ultimately a mindset, because what a lot of people don't realize is whether it's conscious or subconscious, we're constantly growing and changing, and until you actually pay attention to it, you may not even recognize yourself when you look in the mirror sometimes.
Mm,
And it I guess you would just say simply it highlights my growth. It highlights the transformations I've gone through, and it's been a constant process, like a revolving door of ego death over and over and over.
mm. What's your sign, by the way? Because that
I'm a
sounds like eighth
Cancer.
house Scorpio energy.
I'm a Cancer. I was born July 20th.
Oh, okay. You're July Cancer. Very cool. All right. Any
Yeah,
Scorpio in
we're the
your
best
chart
ones.
or?
Um, I believe I may have one placement somewhere.
Okay.
But I'm a Taurus moon and I'm a Virgo rising, so that's saying a lot.
How peculiar. Not in a bad way, but in a very good way. That's really balanced. That's really balanced.
Mhm.
So I wanted to jump into kind of like some of the questions.
Okay.
Are you able to see the comments? Like are you able to
Oh.
interact with the comments there?
Yep, I see him on the side there.
All right, cool, cool, cool. All right. Hi, Sean. Welcome in. That's one of my clients that I coached some time ago. We still stay in contact to this day. She's amazing. So I kind of want to open this discussion up with men's mental health and masculinity because I feel like in the Black community, Black men especially have it the hardest when it comes to mental health, right? As far as like not being able to have emotion or having that stigmatized perception that having emotion is like a bad thing, right? And so like just getting our men to like take care of their emotional well-being is really really difficult. So what does mental strength really mean to you now versus what you were taught growing up?
Well, when it comes to that, my mom was born in 1955. So that in itself is just like the foundation of how I was raised.
Yeah.
And even from the way that she raised me was drastically different from the way that she raised my brothers.
Mm,
With me, it was do it by the book, keep your head down, don't get in trouble. But that created a docile persona for me as a kid
yes.
early on.
Mhm.
But with my brothers, it was, oh, if somebody steps to you, you go at them.
Yeah.
It was drastically different. And I would
So
say, oh, go ahead.
no, you finished.
I was just gonna say that even the way that she was raised Catholic by not my grandmother, but my great grandparents and my great grandfather's mother, who was full blooded Dee.ThePoet Blackfeet. So from the time that my two-time great grandmother started having kids, none of them were documented. My mom was the first child in my family that was immediately documented in a hospital and recorded. Every other person from our family was, documented in the census. They grew up on a farm. They like
Wow.
it was so much like I guess adjacent would be the word, not even a
Mm,
parallel. It was so adjacent from everybody else growing up around me. But we had two homes. Our family home, one was in Flint, and where I claim Beecher is, it's the same. It's all a part of Flint, but Beecher in itself, we're 5 square miles. You might as well call us like a small town in the middle of Arkansas or something.
right.
It's really, it was really a different kind of feel in both neighborhoods, but the community growing up for me early on, it was if you lived on the street or the people on the next block even knew who your parent was, don't get caught doing something crazy because
Right.
they would drag you home if they didn't take care of you
That's when you get
themselves.
beat by the neighbors and your parents. So you get out, so you get a double
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, so it was a lot stricter for me growing up than I think my brothers. Even though they went through the same treatment around the neighborhood, it was more so they didn't have as much of a leash.
Yeah. Okay. So just with like that particular upbringing, like how did it kind of morph you into like the trajectory that you're on now?
I became observant early
Okay.
on. Um, I I never wanted to be in the spotlight for the wrong reasons because of knowing the consequences that would follow.
Mm,
And
yeah.
just as I grew older, it was like, okay, well, I'm being raised this certain way, but the world around me doesn't align with what I'm being taught at all.
Mm,
So there were times where when I was younger, like dealing with bullies or just dealing with confrontation in general is like, okay, do I stick to the mold that I was, put in, or do I allow these circumstances, my environment to ultimately shape who I am? And from that, I chose a middle ground
mm,
because I was already so different from every other kid around me because a lot of the young guys that I grew up with, either their moms were at work and their dad wasn't present, or even if they had a dad present, they both of their parents were at work. And that is even reflective today. Like a lot of parents have to decide to whether being in the home and creating the proper structure or sacrificing their time to make sure that everything is taken care of.
right.
So while other kids were finding themselves early in activities that might have been following somebody else or getting into the wrong circumstances, I was more so like, okay, I'll stick my toe in the water, but I know at the end of the day, I have somebody who's going to like put their foot down and not allow me to do
Like
those
you won't
things
be in
that my
trouble.
brothers did.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So, um, can you give me 2 seconds because I got to plug my other computer in.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. All right. Little impromptu live video today. It's all good though. Let's see.
Look, until you have a sound team, a visual
I wish
team.
I did. Shoot, I wish I did. I'm over here with all my little gadgets though. It works
I
though.
mean, one day you'll be like Joe Budden with somebody in the back room and you gotta switch the camera to
No, I'm trying to get like Mel Robbins if I'm being honest. But if you're watching, hey girl. um, so I had another question. What was
him.
one silent battle that you fought that almost broke you, but it shaped you?
Um, something that a lot of men don't talk about is sexual abuse.
Mm,
I went through it very early, and it's not mentioned in my second book, but it's directly after I lose my brother to prison. And then it's in between me losing my brother to prison and then my grandma passing away.
yeah.
So when you mold all of that together, it really became like a fractured tale of whoever I was at any moment in time.
Mm,
And that's when the docile behavior, the not wanting to be seen for the wrong reasons, that kind of deteriorated. I went from an all A student to, by the time I graduated high school, I was a two-time dropout and my GPA was like a 1.9.
mm,
Like I literally had played sports only to make it through high school. Like none of it actually mattered. And that was what ultimately led me to go into the army. And just looking back at it, who I was and how I guess shuffled the deck of life through all of those situations, honestly, I don't know who I was most days
wow.
because it was me in the midst of survival, learning myself, going through changes. Um, for a short period of time, me and my mom were homeless simply because she had left my dad.
Yeah.
So it was like one thing after the other, and me constantly having to pivot and finding my footing. But the only thing that was constant was me writing. That was it.
Mm. So in essence, like you were able to use the pain that you were going through at the time to build this composition of your now writings.
Absolutely. Even if you want to look at it in terms of uh alchemizing like pain,
Yeah.
turning lead to gold is literally the same thing.
Oh
You
my God.
take
Yes.
you take this dark substance and then you turn it into something that everybody will see and they're like, oh, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
But then behind all of that, you're like, okay, yeah, the accolades, the trophies, they may be nice, but did you actually like read into what I was saying here?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's God's grace that a lot of us are even here to be able to tell these stories. A
Yes.
lot of a lot of men, especially, they pass on without ever uttering a word of what they went through, and then people are just like, oh, he had this way of being, or oh, he was so messed up, this, that, and the third, but they don't know the extent
Why?
that he had to go through to even wake up every day, go to
Yeah.
work, make sure his kids were straight, look his woman in the face and not be angry, or like, as men, we have to just roll with the punches a lot of times, and nobody really stops to question, like, hey, are you okay? Are you good?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, nobody does it. I think it's getting more common, but it's still something I think that a lot of people are struggling with, especially like in the 4B movement, and then you have the red pill community, and it's just all of these different elements and aspects that really just push you way farther outside of like what we're supposed to be doing. Obviously, um the journey is an individual one, but it's also a collective one, right? So I think everybody in essence needs everybody, but like the way that society has programmed us, it's like nobody really cares about what men go through because y'all are supposed to be strong. So basically just shut the fuck up and deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And so you see a lot of men kind of they're operating in that trajectory, in that narrative. And so like it's easy to turn, someone that's going through something into a monster because they demasculate men. You know what I'm saying? Like
mhm,
there's no understanding. And then when I say understanding, I don't mean like accepting like crazy wild behavior because I have a
right.
story, but it's not for today. You know what I'm saying? But it's just extending that grace to be like, hey, like I know that you've had a difficult time. I know that you've gone through some really messed up things. And as they, in return, your mind is never the same. When you go through certain traumas, like your mind forever changes. And I don't think people realize that it happens on a biochemical level. But we just dismiss that because it's not what we want. to hear. It's not what we want to see. It's
Right.
not immediately benefiting, you know, collectively. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
kind of
and
sad.
even in that, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
Even in that, just looking at all of the things that we all go through, people will weigh out who has it worst rather than actually empathizing, but then they'll be the main ones on social media or, running to their family like, oh, no one's showing me empathy, when in actuality they just want sympathy.
Yeah, you want
They don't
someone
even
to play
want
the fiddles for you.
they just want to be able to leave breadcrumbs and say, oh, woe is me, but then
Mhm.
turn around and look at a man or a young boy going through the same exact thing and they're like, oh, toughen up. Like,
Toughen
you
up,
got it.
yeah. And that seems to always be like the answer. Like that's the solution is like life is kicking your ass. Like toughen up, buttercup. Like suck it up. And it's like no,
Like,
like
even that phrase, like, oh, I miss when men used to go off to war and die. Do you know how insensitive that sounds?
what?
Like, oh, it is even going through being between my parents and seeing how divorce shaped them in the midst of my mom losing her mom and dealing with substance abuse, not even hard shit, but just like pills because she was constantly in pain. she
Yeah,
she had fibromyalgia and things like that. So even the things that were meant to help her became addictive.
yeah,
And there's so many stories, and we'll talk about that like privately because it's so deep.
yeah,
But like there was a time where I remember my mom being so high off pain pills that we're literally going through intersections and I'm steering the vehicle. Like, and watching my mom be lost and trying to find her footing after losing her mom, who she really wasn't that close with because my granny had her at 15.
oh wow. So she was a
And
baby herself.
yeah, and like them being 15 years apart, but then me and my mom being 20 years apart, but my mom had me at 40. It was
Wow.
a drastic difference. My brothers got to experience her in her 20s. I got to experience her during her decline. And by the
Mm,
time she gets close with her mom again, she loses her mom. And
wow.
so then I lose my mom and my grandma and my actual mom, who then can't even function to properly evaluate what's going on, what she should do, things like that. And it was a snowball effect. So it was like, okay, you miss Granny, but I miss Granny. And the only one that has to wake up every day and go to school and operate around these kids and learn his way through life is me.
Yeah.
And with my dad, he was struggling with his own substance issues.
Mm,
So it was a lot of the times where we would have really meaningful, deep conversations, but there's alcohol on his breath, or he's high, or like it. Even in that, a lot of people would never understand what growing up in an urban city is like,
yo,
just
that part.
because of those realities. And
Mhm.
as much as we as Black people want to say, "Oh, the system," it's encoded in our DNA. A lot of the things that we do.
Well, yeah. Mhm. No, it definitely is. So question. But I want to backtrack a little bit. You said that
Mhm.
you went to the military for some time.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
I was in the army for 2 years.
Okay. Did you like it? And what did you
Hence,
learn
I said
there?
2 years. So, my original contract was 3 years and 16 months or 16 weeks. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Um, that did not happen for the simple fact that racism exists.
Mm,
And knowing knowing that racism always existed, I never thought that it would have been relevant there. But then again, even growing up with my dad, watching movies like Pearl Harbor, uh, Saving Private Ryan, stuff like that, they don't highlight the treatment of Black soldiers.
Mm.
They didn't highlight what I would possibly go through. Like, I know a lot of people may not know what I mean by getting smoked, but I was in training in California, the middle of the desert. It's 120 degrees, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting smoked in front of the whole company, and when I go to get up, I get dirt kicked in my face. Like, I was threatened, all types of stuff, and they made it seem as though I was the problem. And that's the new way of dealing with soldiers that you don't like, is you create a paper trail, and then once it's enough paperwork on the desk, push them right out the door. The job itself, the job itself was fun. The guys on my level, they were great. Well, some of them. But even being a civilian, it's the same shit as being in the army. Like, the
Mm.
leadership is awful.
Mm.
You get a few good gems, but as a whole, just like how we say all cops are bad, all soldiers are shit if they don't speak up for one another, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, because
And
if one bad one makes you all bad. Because if you watch something crazy happening to another person, and that's in your group, like, and you don't say anything or you don't do
Mhm.
anything to defend them, it's just like you're just as bad as the person that actually did something, in my eyes.
Yeah, yeah, being complicit, people don't even think that, oh, I'm just an innocent bystander. Like, no, you're not, because we had what, quarterly meetings with the highest ranking NCO
Mhm.
all the time. And they would bring up, little bullshit about, treatment, but they would never deep dive into, okay, all of the black soldiers are working extra duty. You got the Jamaican doing this, you got the other black soldiers doing this, the Hispanics are doing the NCO's computer work and shit like that. Like, it was so wild. And even when I reported the sergeant that I had a problem with, they made him the EO representative. So now the person that I have to go to for equal opportunity is the same motherfucker I had problems with.
Right.
So it was just, it was very eye-opening. And in all honesty, people say it all the time, but the military, our government, they don't realize that they just reinforce all of the leftist ideology. They create the people that ultimately want to stand up against them when they get older.
Exactly. Yeah, that sounds like a really tough spot to be in. Like, that's obviously that's nothing that I've never gone to the military, so but I've heard
It's
stories.
not for us.
I've
It's
heard
not for us
stories.
at all.
And I think just the overall history, which I don't want to like hijack it, but the overall history alone was enough for me to be like, no. Like, but I get, like, there are people that go because they do have great opportunities, and some people, they want like the discipline um faction that you get only from going there. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So did you learn anything as far as like your masculinity when you were there? Or
I
was your
learned the toxic
masculinity
aspects of
challenged
it.
while you were there?
I definitely learned the toxic aspects of it.
Okay.
Because, as they say, they break you down to build you up.
Yeah.
But in actuality, it's just constant breaking down, and you just have to choose how you put yourself back together.
Yeah.
But I mean, even without deployments, there are some people who go through basic training and they're talking in their sleep for months. Like, there are people who, once they lose that childlike aspect of themselves, they
You
can no
never.
longer even operate as who they were.
Yeah.
It creates an entirely new identity. It gives them a new ego, a new persona, and then whoever you have on the other side of that barrel of that gun
Mhm.
is who you have to deal with in the
And
suit, out the suit.
yeah,
And I don't think that that is healthy at all,
absolutely
because
not. Mhm.
I mean, like you even started to highlight the history of it.
Mhm.
Our people have been fighting for America's army for
A very long time. Yeah.
more than 500 years. And I have at least one or two family members in every single war since the American Revolution, whether they were mixed or completely indigenous. It's
Wow.
not for us. It's never been for us because it's doing somebody else's bidding while they just get to discard you once they're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. No, I 100 wholeheartedly agree with that. I feel like when I was younger, I worked at the VA hospital. And so I got to see just, a lot of the ailments that soldiers get to come back with and how they're discarded, like you said, and treated by the same country that they sacrificed their life for, essentially, and how they really don't
Hmm.
care. And they not only become victims to themselves, but they become a problem to the community that they come back to, like their families. They're not the same people that they leave. When they come back, it's not the same at all. You have people that are like literally have like extreme PTSD, like brain damage. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
they're aggressive and violent. And
yeah,
that makes me wonder, because you had started talking about like growing up in an urban area, right? And obviously like the level of PTSD might not be on the same caliber, but I do feel like it's the same stature. Living in an urban area or having to grow up in that, the level of PTSD that people that are raised or grown up in areas like this, I feel like it's somewhat similar. I wonder if they've ever done brain scans to see. Now I'm curious.
uh honestly, I don't think they care enough
Mm,
because in all honesty, like when you're out processing from the any branch of military, you go through these series of courses that are supposed to help you get jobs or go to school. But based on your discharge status, like me, seeing that they labeled me as a problem and made it patterns of misconduct, I didn't leave with honorable discharge. I left on a general with honorable conditions, meaning, oh, he was a shitbag, but he wasn't bad enough to be sent to jail or be called dishonorable.
right.
So I left without the GI Bill. I left without being able to classify with the VA for any kind of help. And the VA in itself, they recently, I believe there's been a motion filed by Black veterans because most Black veterans don't even get help. Like they'll look at their case and automatically deny them. And then
Wow.
on top of that, whether Black, white, indifferent, I want to say the homelessness rate, 60% of them are veterans.
Wow.
So even with our current administration, I don't even want to get into the current administration, but even within that, they claim to care about the Patriots and Vance is supposedly a veteran and this, that, and the third. But
Mm,
how can you say you care about us and there's so many of us on the streets?
yeah.
The whole 22 kill movement of veterans and service members doing 22 push-ups is because there's 22 veterans dying a day from suicide,
That's a
and
lot.
that's even after they stopped allowing soldiers to bring their rifle and handgun home after Vietnam.
Mm,
Vietnam was the most telling part of it because you came home with a trunk of all of your military stuff. And majority of those guys took themselves out with those weapons. So now the military is just recycling the weapons and not allowing anybody to take them home. And when we come home, we can't defend ourselves. We can't defend our homes. Like
yeah.
there's so much to that.
It
But
just seems like an
ultimately,
all around loss.
it's a lose lose. It
Yeah.
really is.
I'm trying to make sure that my Facebook viewers can see. This looks very oh dear. All right, give me a second here. Can you still hear me?
You all good? Yeah, I
Okay.
can.
Here we go. All right. So, why do you think that Black men specifically struggle to speak openly about their pain or vulnerability?
I honestly feel that if they did grow up with male figures,
Mm,
oftentimes they weren't their fathers. And even
mm,
if they were a stepdad or a an older brother or uncles just being around, there's the possibility in which those men didn't have their dads. So even
yeah.
if you do grow up to be a positive influence, a positive father, there are bits and pieces of men who don't know the whole of themselves.
Mm,
Like even in my situation of having split homes and my sons being raised by their moms, it's it's me having to look at it and say, we shouldn't have any issues when it comes to these boys for the simple fact that no matter who you have in the home, they'll not actually know themselves because we're the two halves of them.
yeah.
Whether it's their happiness or their sadness or their anger, they get 50 of it from you, they get 50 of it from me.
Yeah.
And if you can't, articulate that in a way for them to understand it, how is anybody else going to when they don't know me?
Yeah.
So that domino effect of men needing to affect young men in a positive way goes absent.
Yeah.
And then with moms, it's the same thing. Like women aren't even excluded from this because
I
just from
think
my
women
own
are the biggest
observation,
offenders of our offenders of this, but I go ahead and finish your
I can agree with that because I mean, in
yeah.
the same token, it's not even y'all's fault. That's the part of it that a lot of people don't want to address.
Oh, it is.
And when I mean
It is.
it is in the way that accepting the circumstances and how everything plays out, but
Mhm.
there's a whole generation of women who watch their moms have to push their dads out of the front door just to get help.
Yeah.
But I've had to explain this many times that even in getting that help, you're not getting all the help that you actually need, and they're
Oh,
taking majority of the money that you're supposed to be getting anyway.
exactly. Exactly.
So it living in America is such a catch 22 that nobody wants to address. Like when it comes to people that look like us, unless you make an absolute path out of that struggle is going to follow you whether you want it to or not, depending on
Mhm.
who you have kids with, your career field. If hell, you could, how they were trying to get rid of LPNs a few years ago, like
Mhm.
shit like that. Everything is
Mhm.
constantly ever changing in this place. But when have we ever looked up and it's changed for the better?
It's not. It perceivably, because it's like the breadcrumbs of one small thing. It
Hmm.
might see. It might. What did Obama? What one of the presidents said that? Oh, if you put like a pebble or whatever, it'll ripple, so you'll see it over time. But you don't ever really see. I mean, for me, it's not. It's non-existent because the changes are not being made in the right ways. Like we're not
Right.
set off in the proper direction.
Right. And
And
then a lot of people don't, I know it's kind of like divergent from our topic, but a lot of people don't understand that one president is only setting up the next president.
yeah,
And then a lot of those policies and ideas aren't even theirs. They have a whole boardroom drawing this stuff up
oh,
years
for
in
sure,
advance.
for sure. Um, I don't want to hijack it or derail it to politics, but to piggyback on what you just said, I highly believe that with each president that we have, the whole purpose is to undo what the last one did. And they
Yep.
might not do it completely, um, but it's just like it's a back and forth ping pong game that a lot of people don't even realize.
I
So
mean, even right now, we're reliving the 19th century.
yeah,
Like the historians are fleeing the country in droves.
hmm hmm
Like the people who have written about this stuff, who notice stuff like the back of their hand. They're like, "Oh, hello, Rome. I'll see you later." Like,
You said the Fourth
but the
Reich.
way, but the it it's just like the way that we're addressing it as a community. It's like, oh, we've survived this before. We can do it again. But do we really want to go through 500 more years?
Not at all. And on top of that, it's the ignorance is bliss. Because I always say, like, what happens is people get so, like you said, complacent, and they get hyper focused on things that really don't even matter. You know what I'm saying? And then so that's how policies, like, every night you go to sleep, I always say, you wake up with less and less freedoms. And people don't really have anyone to blame but themselves. Like, when we look ahead in, like, the next decade, where we will be at, or in our children will be at, will be solely the fault of this generation and the last few, because people aren't making smart moves. They're doing things that are impulsive. They're doing things that are convenient. They're doing things that are comfortable. And you can't make proper change being comfortable. It can't happen like that.
Right. And I love
Yeah.
that you even said that because Haile Selassie, he's actually one of my ancestors. He had spies who only operated at the in the nighttime for the
Mm,
simple fact that if anything is to get done by capable men, they don't do it when everybody's awake.
right.
And that when you reflect that back at us, we spend our entire day chasing the American dream
Yes.
as black men. But
Hmm.
the American dream, just like hood shit, just like street shit, is all a myth.
Hmm.
it's not even it's not even something
It
really
doesn't even exist.
obtainable.
Uh-huh.
It's
It's a
like
it's a
you
a rat wheel, a mouse wheel. That's what it is.
it really is. Um and not just that, but when I was working at Amazon, I was like, I'm working 58 hours a week. And though I may be bringing home $1,200,
Hmm.
it's like I could take this $1,200 and be a damn near billionaire in Thailand. What am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can take $700 and it'll be close to 11 million in Bali right now. But we all choose to stay in this vicious cycle like, oh, this is where I grew up, but this is where we're trapped.
It's
Like,
the city of snatched
and
souls.
not to
It's
mention our ancestors cursed the damn land.
Yeah, that part. So
It's such a vicious cycle.
it really is. Wow. Um. All right. So since we're on the topic, what role does community play in a man's healing, and can we really do this alone?
Nobody can do it alone. Like even sidestepping away from men, nobody can do it alone.
Mm,
Like just talking to people over in Africa, they all say it takes a village. And when they mean it takes a village, they are talking about every single member of that direct community.
yes.
Because, like I was talking about in my upbringing, don't let Miss Hattie down the street see you trying to chip off the paint on somebody's house or spraying the walls with graffiti. Like, and a lot of people don't take that with a glass full of grace because when I look back on moments like that, it's like, damn, those same kids that I was doing certain shit with, three of them are dead, two of them are in prison.
Mm,
Like that is what they want for us. They want us to only see the imagery of being successful with a ball in your hand or a mic in your hand, and then your other side of that, the bottoms of that is even if you sell drugs, you're gonna wind up in a jail cell.
yeah.
They really only give us two options.
Yeah.
Is find your success being somebody's modern day slave or poison your community and break it down even more.
Yeah, no, this is very true. So, hold on, sorry. TikTok is acting crazy. All right, so with all of the damage that's already been done to like every generation leading up to today, like, do you feel like it's even possible at this point for Black men um, to get to a place of like complete healing?
It has to come first at the point of being pissed off.
Mm,
Um, I think Pharrell Williams said it perfectly in the beginning of Lemon, and he said the truth might set you free, but first it's gonna piss you off.
oh yeah.
Like me learning not just American history but world history. I've always been a lover of history, and that led
Mhm.
me to wanting to know where I actually come from and not just on this side of the pond. But once you start to dig, it gets so ugly because it's not just people that don't look like us that betrayed us. It was people that look like us that betrayed us. It
Yeah.
was people that
Oh
look
yeah.
like us that were restarting plantations from Haiti in Louisiana.
Hmm.
Like it you really have to go through the full range of emotions to even understand how you got here. But that road that our ancestors had to walk was so ugly and it was so murky. But the thing is they didn't have as many distractions as we did. So even while they were battling with everything around them, they still could, close their front doors and have peace because they knew that once they did that, they could lock in on what the fuck they wanted.
They're doing. Yeah.
But now we have social media, we have the bars, the strip joints, the gangs, video games. Granted, video games
That
are a
mhm.
great component for releasing a lot of that stress,
Yeah.
but it takes away from us being the innovators as we used to be. It takes away from us knowing our practices, connecting with the community, going outside and everybody's working in the community garden, or hell, you look out in a courtyard of an apartment complex and it's full of trash, but everybody has at least a kid or two in their fucking apartment, but nobody's
Mm,
walking outside with a trash bag to make sure that we're taking care of this place that we live on.
yeah.
And the skyscrapers and the concrete has diluted our whole understanding of our place here,
Yeah.
because regardless of who the innovators are, who's pushing science forward, we're the balancing factor. We've always been the balancing factor of taking care of Earth.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
nobody does it better. You can't look at any you can't look at any civilization around the world and say, "Oh, somebody that wasn't black started that." And yeah,
Mm,
that might piss a lot of people off because they've bought into the doctrine. But whether you call them Natufians, whether you call them Phoenicians, whether you call them Etruscans,
it don't
all
matter.
the
Yeah.
same people,
Exactly.
all the same people.
Exactly.
Like you look at the Olmec and the Maya, they're Nubians. What are we talking about here?
Hmm.
like, like we've lost touch with our origins to the point where so long as we worry about the Diddy trial or Tory Lanez being free or fucking Chris Brown coming home from the UK, we'll never stop to look at, oh, Florida just passed a bill that bans chemtrails while Elon is, running his supercomputer in Memphis, polluting a whole black community.
Right.
We have solutions out here. We have plenty of solutions. It's just that everybody is so dispersed onto so many different things. Hell, the
Hmm.
NBA playoffs are going on right now. There's not too many black men that I know that are talking about any of this shit.
Mm, yeah. Because they're
It's
hyper focused on entertainment. It's like
hyperfixation, is it?
mhm. It's like when you take a dog to the kennel to get shots, or and they like distract them before they do what they're getting ready to do. And it's the
Yep.
same thing. Like humans are no exception. It's in I personally I think it's like a social experiment, if I'm being honest. Like all of these things, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Um,
Even with
I didn't know
our
about
whole
Elon Musk with his machine.
oh, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know. And the thing is it's not even just polluting the air, but it's sitting on top of, I can't remember the proper term for it, but it's being run on top of a waterway. So it's extracting clean water from underneath the soil to run this thing. So it's
What?
not only messing up the air, but it's messing up the ground itself. And what people don't realize is he's really bringing apartheid South Africa to Memphis, because during apartheid, what a lot of people don't know is hell, even those Africans that came over here, a lot of them, just like Elon, their parents were uranium miners.
Mhm,
But the thing is they had the indigenous South Africans living on top of those uranium fields.
mhm.
There were children being born with leukemia. Like
Wow.
there, but we've had Jane Elliott, who's such a beautiful soul, for the last 20, 30 plus years, telling them these are the people you come from and you hate them so much.
Yeah,
Like white privilege isn't even white privilege, it is ignorance, in the
yeah.
simple fact that a lot of people don't understand that. I believe it was George Washington that said, give me 100, not 100, but 250 years, and we'll have bred them out and they'll not know where they come from.
Mm.
Both things are completely true.
And they have been living proof in this day and age right now. Because you
Like
do
it,
see so many people that are literally just like lost. I was having this conversation, the other day with a friend, and I was saying how sad it is. It just going outside is sad, right? But like being in the community that I live in and going outside and seeing some of the ridiculousness that goes on, and see how people's minds actually works, it's sad, but then it's also very upsetting because it's like, at what point do people actually start to fixate or fixate on solutions instead of like being a part of the problem? And this is everybody, like everybody in this area, all of
yeah,
them.
yeah. And that it's funny you even say that, because that made me think about Kevin Durant was talking about, because he's from DC. And he was like, it's hard for me to even go home because when I'm walking down the sidewalk, dudes don't even say what up. Like I know that all too well.
Yeah.
And I was in the TikTok comment section, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, and somebody was talking about this exact thing. Like, oh, don't nobody in my neighborhood say what's up to one another because it always becomes a problem. And then I had to just say, like, so because people stop saying what up to you, you stop, giving them a head nod, a wave, or whatever, and dimmed your own light. Like when I was at Amazon, it was literally black men noticing that I was the only person really taking the stairs every single day. Like this one dude walked up to me, he was like, yo, I see you be taking the stairs, and I don't know how, but I started doing it too. I'm like, good. Good. That's literally all it takes.
Yeah,
Because so long as we feel as though, oh, I'm defeated, oh, like nobody around me is about community. Well, if you're not, you won't see
exactly. Exactly.
it. We've been here for how long? Be the change you want to see. See a
Yeah.
light, be a light.
People
Eh,
just stop seeing each other. Like we've normalized it so much so that like when you do notice other people and you do try to interact and you do try to spread that light, it's like something must be wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? Like people have a or a genuine distrust of kindness, empathy, compassion, It's just like, why are you being so nice? Why do you like me? It's like, whoa,
Like,
settle
do you
down.
want something?
Yeah,
Like,
like,
I only got a
you
dollar.
trying to
Like,
rob
you
me?
want it?
They're like, throw it in the bag. No, it's
And that's
not
the
even that.
thing
It's like
too.
literally, um, they don't, the interaction is just, and I see good interaction because I work in the hospital, my regular 9 to 5, I work in the hospital, and it's very, very diverse. So there's people from it's a lot of African people there, and they're like from all of the continents. And the way that they engage and talk to like everybody, and they do stay in their, they're around their people, but they're very friendly and outgoing. And it just makes me wonder, like, what is wrong with the black people here in the United States? Like, they're just so angry and bitter and hateful, and there's a lack of understanding or
I would
tolerance.
The only way that I've been able to process that is even though we face colonialism on both sides of the ocean, they weren't stripped of their whole identity.
Yeah.
When you look at our origins here as indigenous Americans, they took the language, and then when they mixed in other people, they taught them the language, but they only taught them several syllables or
Hmm.
several words to mean a whole conversation of things, saying, oh, well, if a word is arranged this way and it doesn't really connect with the suffix, then you just add another vowel to what are you talking about? You're teaching people a broken language and passing it off as theirs.
Wow.
Doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's just and then over there it's like, if you want to look at the Sahel region in West Africa, for instance, how they all
Mhm.
just kicked France out. Many of them speak French, but I can't remember who the doctor was, but he said anywhere that you go that we've lived, no one that was there before us was forced to speak the language that we came with, and they always kept their way of life while incorporating theirs with ours.
Right.
And that in itself has been documented by colonialists and Zionists that, oh, these people are so kind that it would only take 50 of us to take this shit over.
Mm.
That's the kind of hospitality we had. I mean,
Right.
hell, that's, if people know it, that's the story of Shaka Zulu. He let the
Mm.
British come in, he sat them down like we always do, broke bread, had a conversation. And by the time he realized what was about to happen, it was too late.
It's already done. Yeah.
It's like the moment you even leave a crack in the door, there's a boot coming in it. And once that boot is there,
It's a wrap. Yeah.
you better hope that you can hold on to something.
Yeah.
But people in Africa have been able to hold on to their customs. And I mean, hell, in a way, we've held on to them because we're not going to get into the whole myth of slavery, but just our original connection to them.
Hmm.
I mean, you know how black parents be like, don't do that. That's
Hmm.
Nigerian.
Hmm.
That's literally Nigerian. And they wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many similarities, there are so many customs and things that are embedded in us that people don't understand as ancestral recall. That's literally our ancestors. Hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey, that phrase you just said, you don't know what that means, but it's me. It's me
Yeah.
coming through.
Yeah.
Like everything that I've ever been interested in, whether it was Christianity, Japanese culture, culture from the United Kingdom, Polynesian culture. Once I found out who my ancestors were by name, and I'm looking at all of the locations, and I can say that I'm related to the Tokugawa clan that came from Edo, Benin, and created Edo, Japan. Like, there are people who are like, DNA doesn't tell you anything. How does it not?
It tells you everything because they talk about the River Jordan, but they forget to mention that that's also it's I forget what I can't think of the word, but our bloodstream, that's also the River Jordan. It connects one continent to the other, and it's metaphor for the bloodstream and how genetically speaking, our ancestors, like you said, are encoded in your bloodstream. I found out something crazy, right? Mind you, I do a lot of lucid dreaming. Sometimes like more so during certain times of the year than others. But I had a lady on my podcast. Her name is Dara Saker, and she lives in Israel. So when we first initially met during our Zoom conference call, I remember her asking me. She said, "What does your name mean?" So I said, "What my mom told me." I said, "It means God has heard." She said, "Do you know like what the nationality is?" I'm like, I live in America, so like I hate when people ask me that question because I'm like, you think you're gonna get some strange methodical explanation as to what my name means, right? So she said, "You know what?" She said, "Your name sounds Hebrew." I'm like, Hebrew?
Hmm.
Why would my mother name me a Hebrew name? She said, "You know what? When we actually record the episode," she said, "I'm gonna do some research and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna tell you." So a couple of weeks later, we hop on StreamYard and we're doing an interview. And towards the end, and she said, "Shakim, I almost forgot." She said, "I told you that I was going to tell you what your name meant." She said, "Do you want to know?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "It means God's promise." She said, "You're not going to believe this." She said, "It's actually Hebrew." She said, "It was, you're named after a Hebrew and king. He was a black king. And I forgot the name of the city. But she said he lived in that city and he reigned for like decade, like a very long time." So I was like, how I find that ironic, right? Because my mom, and she stood on that, like God itself. She said God's promise, or God has heard, but the name means God's promise, which is kind of the same thing, kind of.
Hmm.
But I think that she intuitively said it because I don't think that she actually knew what it meant. So it's the fact that, like you said, the ancestors do speak to us through our genetic coding, and all of these like different saying and phrases. It makes me think of I don't know if you watched that movie Sinners.
Hmm.
You did? All right, I want to
Oh
hear
yeah.
your thoughts on it.
Oh, okay.
I gotta hear it because I literally got chills. I
Oh.
watched it 2 times. I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go to the movies and I'm gonna watch it again because like the first time was for entertainment, the second time was for research purposes only. And I said the third
Oh,
time I'm gonna actually pay it, see some things that I didn't see before.
so I'm gonna ask you, when you watched it the first time, did that whole 2 hours feel like 30 minutes?
It was quick. Yes, it did. 100%.
I felt as though I could
100%.
have just pressed play again and just sat there like and I think it was the blend of the culture and the comic relief in the midst of all of the horror that was going on. And a lot of people wouldn't even realize that that is us through and through. Like, we make jokes at the worst shit
Black people take
and at the
nothing
worst time.
serious. Nothing serious. We take nothing serious. I swear.
Like, why did they make that animated video of cornbread rapping the song from 8 Mile?
That's a
But
fact.
yeah, I mean, that movie, it was so impactful. And I think just me being as metaphysically and esoterically aware as I already was,
Mhm.
stepping into it, like, a lot of people saw it like, oh, it's just a vampire flick and Michael B. Jordan is playing a double role and all of this stuff is going on.
It was deeper than
But the
that.
people from that region of the Mississippi Delta, like, a lot of people who saw the movie don't even understand it at first. Before they got their private screenings, they were pissed
Oh, they were
because
mad.
the film
Oh,
was actually shot in Louisiana. And so they were like, well, why this? But that ties into the entertainment industry and how the taxes work for big shows and productions and stuff like that. So that I can understand because I'm a screenwriter. But even just the effort that Ryan puts in every single time. Like whether
Yeah.
you look at Fruitvale Station about his hometown or Black Panther, where he went to South Africa for a whole month to learn everything that they put in that film. Like, even though he kind of like, he didn't have a choice but to shorthand the natives' experience of it, he made it so close to what the actual representation should have been.
Mhm.
And then he paints a picture of the what was it called, the Valentine's Day massacre, how the twins they dress differently, but one was
Yes.
with the Italians, one was with the Irish.
Wow.
And
I
when
didn't
you
even pick.
look
I
up
see you just. Yeah. I didn't even pick up on that.
them coming from Chicago, I was like, oh no, it's not about to be that. But it was definitely
And it was
that.
exactly that. Because I was confused as to why they had so much. There was so much. It was so much centered around like Scotland and the slaves, right? Even like down to the music that they were singing, and I was like, this sounds like very like a spell. They're going around in a circle, outside. I don't know. So my mind started thinking because we're all, and my family is part Irish too. Like we actually have ancestors that came from Ireland. Sorry, I keep saying Scotland, Ireland, and settled down in New Orleans. And so they were breeded during that time.
Hmm. And yeah, just if people don't know Chicago before it is what it is today, the history is so and them being henchmen for Capone, like the moment I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, they on some shit. And just the highlighting the Valentine's Day massacre itself, the Irish and the Italians basically got pitted against one another for this very reason of, okay, one person is selling the product and then the other person selling their product. All right, it's a gang war. They started a
Right.
whole gang war and ran back home.
Wow. See, I didn't.
And then
So the Valentine's Day massacre, that's one part of history that I'm not too familiar with. Like I'm familiar, but not like extensively. So I appreciate you for breaking that down because like
I don't
I had
even know
no
it
idea
in
why
full
they.
for real. Like I know bits and pieces, but just that little bit that I did know about was so eye-opening, and it showed how much Ryan actually put, well, not just Ryan, let's give his production team, the writers and everybody else some credit too,
Credit, yeah,
but the research that goes into making a very dynamic film,
yeah,
and then for that film to be shot in the largest IMAX possible, which was another factor into why they needed more space and a bigger layout. Like they gave us something that we probably wouldn't even have gotten from Spike Lee. And we know
yeah.
Spike was so innovative, like the dolly angle that he put into movies like Malcolm X and things like that. That
Hmm.
blew my mind. Like this
Yeah,
camera angle just panned up at the character, and
yeah,
creativity
yes,
creativity is up here.
all the way on 10.
But man, just tying in hoodoo culture, Gullah Geechee culture, and how that connects to Ifa and Yoruba land, like even if we just look at it as hoodoo, voodoo, vodun, like all of that stuff is us, and it is every bit of who our ancestors were.
Yeah.
which is why a lot of people don't understand that them living in the same place that they grew up in might be them just continuing on the curse, because for the simple fact that they were never meant to be there.
Mm.
like
So in order for them to
like
have broken the curse would be for them to uproot, but they like complacent. We just talked about this though. We just talked about this.
there's I mean, but we can't really blame them
Mm,
for, especially like people in LA,
mm,
because when you get approached by a gang member in LA, hey, where your mama stay, where your daddy stay, where your granny stay.
mm.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters to them.
Right.
But people don't understand that gangs, um, nationalism, all of that comes from tribalism.
Mm,
But what they fail to realize is that within tribalism, we all were different nations.
yeah.
We were different nations working together to keep the balance. Okay, if you're Apache, you're over there, you guard the mountains and the plains with the
Mm,
Blackfeet. If you're Cherokee or whoever, the Creek, or like over here, y'all watch the waterways. People don't even understand the Louisiana Purchase in itself was the determining factor of where we are today.
yeah.
like had the French not sold Louisiana, and we're not just talking about the boot, we're talking about all the way up, what, beyond Oklahoma and all of that. Like it stretched damn near to Utah. We're talking about a whole section of our map.
Yeah.
There was us running around, living our lives, and hell, after the Trail of Tears, relocating,
Yeah.
constantly being renamed, and then incorporating I believe they were either Cherokee or Choctaw, the ones that were actually hunting the vampires.
Hmm.
Like even them, they have myth about that.
Yeah.
like how Anne was talking about, oh yeah, I know exactly what y'all is. Everybody was in the know of what the fuck these people were from the
Right.
moment they showed up. But even in that, hell, him being an Irish vampire in the scene in the lake where where everybody just chime in on the prayer, he like, look, I get it. I get why you're doing it. But my grandpappy and them, they went through this shit too, and they tried that shit too, and here I am,
Yeah.
fangs and all. Like the oh man, and even in that, um, I don't even want to break off into theology, but Judaism at its core came from Akhenaten in Egypt. He is the fabled Moses. Like he gave the world monotheism. It spread to Israel. The rest is history. But yeah, like when it comes to spiritualism, religion, just the practices, everything that was incorporated in centers, unless you're a lover of history, is just entertainment. Like there are probably a lot of people who sat down and watched the film and they didn't really understand that a lot of what was being portrayed and a lot of what was being said was giving them breadcrumbs to go and look these things up.
Mm,
Like even Haint Blue, my childhood home before we moved to Beecher was Haint Blue. And every time something happened, we went back to that house and it was like whether we had electricity, whether we had running water or not, nothing touched that house.
mm. Wow.
And like when that house burned down, it was like every bit of the foundation just dismantled.
Mm,
Like there's so much interwoven from our culture that predates even America that is here, that a lot of people will never grow to fully understand, for the simple fact that they won't sit down and just pause for a moment to take in something other than their norm.
No, I completely agree. So what do you think that it's gonna take for people to get to that point? I know you said like the anger, because we were talking about, men deciding to change the trajectory, right? But just like as a whole, like us as a people.
You got to retrace those steps.
Mm,
And I know a lot of people wouldn't want to hear it because they base themselves as the aborigine of this land, and I get it. I do as well, but I'm not accepting that as the whole of who I am.
mm,
Um, and then not just that, but for someone like me who's Blackfeet, not Blackfoot, which is oh, let me actually break down this, because the Blackfoot Confederacy is split between Alberta, Canada, and Montana.
mm,
They've taken what, a handful of half a dozen tribes and stuck them in one portion of a state and another country state. And the people that tell the tale of my people say that this is the only place that they've ever existed. But those same people will say, oh, the Trail of Tears happened and millions were displaced. Yeah, I know, because my third great grandmother walked the Trail of Tears, settled in the Great Smoky Mountains, and had her daughter. And then her daughter had to leave the Smoky Mountains because the white men with the fire water were coming with the guns.
mm-hmm.
She
Wow.
literally followed the Quaker women from the Smokies down the river into somewhere in southeast Tennessee. But when I tell this story to natives, and that's the thing too, indigenous and native are completely different.
Very.
Being
Mhm.
indigenous, you're of this land, you were born on this land. Being native, you were from somewhere else and you were
And you
just
came
born
here.
here.
Yep. You're
telling that
migrants.
tale,
Hmm.
telling that tale, like I don't even tell it to say, oh, this is my home and you're just an imposter. I honestly don't give a damn, because I have part of Siberian history in me too.
Mm,
But I mean, I'm not saying that I'm a mongoloid, but it is what it is. But the moment that people actually sit down and accept the whole of who they are, the better off they'll be, because
yeah.
we have quote unquote black people arguing one another down, like, oh, you don't want to be an FBA, so go back to Africa, or you can leave with the Mexicans and the Mongols too.
Right.
Bro, you sound dumb.
Or you got the Hebrew Israelites around here. They like to come on, they stand on the corner. I'm just
And
like, bro.
even in that, like, I respect it because they are upholding what they're supposed to uphold, and that
Mm,
is our culture. Because before we got stripped of all of our languages and things like that, there were more Creole and Hebrew speaking people here than anything.
mhm.
But even in that, going back to my ancestor Akhenaten, that man was an Egyptian. He gave y'all everything that y'all follow.
Yeah.
Medu Neter was the basis for Arabic,
Mhm.
Proto Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, like a lot of Mande languages. Like, even when I tell other Niasatapi, you realize you Dogon, right? They're like, oh no,
Mm,
we're not from Africa. How are you not, when they were the only people to know about Sirius A, Sirius B, Sirius X, and they said the sky people came down here? But what does Niasatapi mean? The original people. And what is their myth? The sky people came down here. What are we talking about?
right. Let's not act slow.
But it's just that programming. and not wanting to be deprogrammed, but we have 1,000,001 people running around here. Oh, escape the matrix, escape the matrix. Escape your own mind first,
Right.
please.
Because that's the matrix. What people don't realize, like that's the prison that keeps you locked down into what is it, light cold lockdown? That's what it is. Like your programming,
We're the
all of that.
original supercomputer.
Yeah.
We're the original AI.
Mhm.
And hell, even men that want to operate on patriarchy, they believe that the patrilineal line is older than the matrilineal line. How?
It's not true. It's not true.
And even if you want to look at Christ's mom, hell, the way that Christ was born, his mother was born. That's not shaking a nerve in you a little bit?
Yeah.
But we have comic book companies like DC telling you about the Amazonian women
Was
who,
that Woman King?
huh?
You talking about Woman King?
No, how the story of Wonder Woman, how she comes from Amazonia and is nothing but women. There are no men there, but they're all having children.
Mm,
But everyone will believe the Eden tale. when when even Cain said, Daddy, how I'm gonna go out there? Them people will kill me. What people if we the only people on earth?
right.
I don't know.
Right.
It's just I don't even like breaking off into theology and all of that for the simple fact that a lot of people do get offended, but there are more reasonable explanations that we've already been given,
Right.
whether it's the start of civilizations or hell, the Bible itself.
Yeah.
Like you can let a lot of people run around saying, "Oh, it's allegory," but when it comes to somebody like you saying, "Oh, you know that really came out of Egypt," they get
Now you're
pissed.
wrong. Now you're all
They
sorts
get
of
pissed.
wrong. It's blasphemous.
But if you look at the history of my ancestor, Akhenaten ruled in the same way that Moses ruled. He did the same thing that Moses did. He just took the 42 laws of Ma'at and turned it into the 10 commandments.
Yeah.
And then he wandered around the woodlands for 40 years with our chosen people. And then when he died, they buried him and they carried on.
Come on now.
Like,
Hmm.
I've even gotten into it with a few people about the first Danites because
Mm,
we know that if you watch the show Vikings, Ragnar is shown as a blue haired, not blue haired, blonde haired, blue eyed white man.
yeah.
But the very first Danites that left Bashan and broke away from everybody else, they were dark skinned. They had the same hair as the indigenous Americans,
Mm,
and their eyes were so bright blue that they practically fucking glowed. How is Ragnar portrayed in the show? His eyes literally jump out of the screen at you
yeah.
because they have to tell you this stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that's a sidebar, like
No, it's
they're
definitely true though.
just
It's universal law. They do have to tell you. Now, whether you choose to believe it or not is on you. And I think a lot of that comes from back to programming. Because we were just talking about that. People are programmed now more now than ever, I believe, to have a level of skepticism and disbelief. Because when you go for so long. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read one of the comments. When you go for so long, right? Our for Black Americans, our history, right, has been completely like deconstructionalized. So like we get our truths in bits and pieces. And then even when you start going in religion, like it's all broken up and it's in bits and pieces. So now, like, unless you have the financing to go to a really good school, or to be able to travel, we're all just really running around here word of mouth. And that's just what it is.
mhm.
Um,
but but even in that, I don't mean to cut you off, but even in that, um, that's what we lived off of. That's the reason
mhm,
why a lot of our history isn't known today because before Timbuktu, before Benin, before we started writing things in stone, we only told it by mouth. And
Yeah.
majority of the time, it was only told to the women.
Hmm.
Because unless the boys grew up to be priest chieftains, they didn't necessarily need the full of that information.
Yeah.
it boils down to the way that our culture has always been and how it's evolved, and then what we had to do to make sure that specific places were remembered in time, like Egypt in stone.
Yeah.
And even with the whole America is the old world talks, yeah, we have more pyramids, more mounds, just as many artifacts. And while that is valid, it's not the whole of us. If we
Hmm.
don't understand the whole of who we are, and not just individually, but how we line up with other people. Like you and I have a common ancestor somewhere, but we're not related.
True.
That is the case for everybody in the room.
Hmm.
You could be like, "Oh, the Queen of Sheba is my 7-time great aunt." Oh, really? That's my 7-time great grandma.
Wow.
But people that have yet to step into wanting to know more than just where they come from pertaining to here,
Hmm.
they'll forever be lost on that.
Exactly.
But even the people that read the Bible completely ignore the simple fact that it says blatantly, mind ye not the people that want to argue differentiating who you are.
Hmm.
Everybody can't be saved. As a healer, as somebody who genuinely deeply cares about every single one of us, regardless of if y'all piss me off sometimes or not, I want everybody to feel how I feel.
Hmm.
But in the same token, this is exactly what the American government, hell, probably even the UK government, the French government don't want us to understand, is that we have a lot more to us than what
It's
they'll
being.
allow us to learn.
Yep.
Because once you can name off ancestors, there's so much power in that.
Oh yeah.
Like, like the scammers on TikTok who be like, "Oh, I I can't place it, but you have this veil over your aura, but the ancestors are calling." Look, Shango ain't said shit to you, and you better leave a
Yeah. I
couple
don't. I don't
alone
ever
before I
go. I don't
call
ever go for that. I don't ever go for
it.
that. Because my
And it's
thing
just
is, I might not be able to name names directly, but I know that probably because I'm like so distracted with like this world, but they do come to me, right? So
mhm,
I always say like you don't have a message from me, and if you do, it's not coming from my ancestors. Like that's not a fact. Because
right.
anytime that I've ever needed to know any impertinent, vital information, it always they always contact me through my dreams. So I'm like,
Mhm,
let's just start there, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. I
how did
think
you? So you said
oh,
you dreamed about them. That's how you found out.
um so I actually had I guess you can call it a lucid dream. It's weird how I have to explain this. So there are there are dreams in which you're the observer, and it may be somebody else that you're observing, like astral
Yep.
projection.
Yep.
But this dream in particular was me astral projecting, but also being the one being observed.
So you were watching you watching yourself. Okay. I've had that
But
before, so I know. You don't sound crazy.
it wasn't it wasn't even constructed like how a normal dream is. Like you're in a regular place, and like say you're in your neighborhood or somewhere familiar to you.
Yeah.
This was complete. I could tell, and I knew it instantly when I saw it. It was completely constructed by me, because
Mm,
it was I don't know if you're into like comic book stuff, but the show Legion,
no.
about Professor Xavier's son, he basically could travel between spaces. Um,
Okay.
so
Like
imagine,
interdimensional travel. Like
Yeah.
that?
So imagine like the astral space,
Okay.
but then in the astral space you got this block of creative space, like, and you're overlooking it like you're in Sims, right?
Okay.
So I'm above this space and I'm just looking down and I'm like, why the hell am I in a diner? But then as I'm asking myself questions, I'm like, oh, okay, that little detail over there, I constructed that. Everything is red. I know that that's my color. And even
Yeah.
then, I didn't even know I was related to Shango then.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, okay, I constructed this place, but what am I doing here?
Mm.
And then in walks these two shadows. Like I can't even really explain how I knew that it was Ra and Eshu. But my middle name being Raheem, I know I'm connected to Ra.
Mm.
Um, eh, I mean, if Oduduwa and Shango are my ancestors, I know Eshu is going to be throwing me some kind of trick at some point in life.
Right.
But when I did, like it was more so like a energetic recognition. Because they were like shadow men. Like I can send you a photo of this one image where it's like five shadow people and then there's one that's like a light being. But they look like shadow men, but they were covered in what seemed like silver and gold flakes. But when Shango came to me, him being the trickster, not Shango, Eshu, when he came to me being the trickster, the only thing that this dude did, I don't want to be disrespectful because I don't want to get hemmed up again. He literally walks over, socks me in my shit, and like, what are you doing sitting here eating and shit? It's work to be done. I get grabbed by my leg and I'm dragged into what would have been the kitchen area of this diner, and then I wake up. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Well, that was basically a lesson in fuck around and find out. Like, you're not here for all that other shit. Like, he said, I don't know what we talking about. We're not talking about that though.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it happened like right after me losing my brother. So I'm grieving and everything, but this is when my book actually starts to form. And
Mm-hmm.
I had been looking at like poems for months. I'm like, okay, I can organize this way to tell that story. This over here can be there. But then this dream happens. And like I was at a standstill for weeks because even setting the grief aside, I was like, I just don't even want to. That dream happened. I was like, yep, this is the chapter. And then from there, everything lined up. And I know a lot of people be talking to GPT, but even when I explained it, it was like, oh yeah, so that was an involuntary initiation. Oh, really? Like I
Like, so
didn't know.
you didn't have a choice either. Wow.
But yeah, no. And then it's not even just like some other world, like incorporeal, I got my ass beat. I woke up and I was in pain.
Oh,
Like,
it was like real physical. It was a
oh yeah. Yeah, like if you're a dream walker, as they call it, you will wake up oftentimes with scars, with pains. Like there have been plenty of times where I've woken up and I felt like, all right, who whooped my ass and why? Not even being able to remember the dream.
mm. I had that a few weeks ago. I had woke up with like it looked like somebody did like this on this arm, and I woke up with like bruises. I bruised easy. It was like three of them, and then the following night, I had like this weird pain on my left knee, and I'm like, what? Like what? Mm,
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, without knowing, like, yeah, we may have ancestral recall, and that does help us a lot with being guided back to our roots of like each land and what they practice and things like that.
okay.
But once you know like who these people are for real, it's like, okay, that person was a root worker. that person was a shaman, this person did that, like I
Mm-hmm.
was just, and that's the thing too. I had my raw DNA file broken down by Chat GPT to cross-reference public databases and things like that to bring up names.
Wow.
Like that, that's what I won't say it like a side quest, but that's what one of my missions is, I feel like, is to ensure that people can actually find out who their relatives are if they can't find them through documentation, because being able to invoke that kind of spiritual power, like granted there will be people that want to use it for the wrong purposes, but in your healing and protecting your heritage, like a lot of people are born and don't even realize we have ancestral contracts to fulfill because somebody before us didn't.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're pretty much
And
you
that's where
have
a
to
lot of turmoil
you're
comes from.
responsible for picking up what they kind of left on the table.
Yep.
Hmm.
Like even how I was talking about my mom and my grandma's relationship. My grandma dumping my mom off at 15 after her grandma took care of the entire family,
Mm.
dumped a massive curse on all the women,
Yeah.
because then it wasn't just my granny doing it, but her sisters were doing it.
Mm.
Then my mom did it. Her sisters did it. And being a man and looking at split homes, hell, the same situation I put my kids in, my granny put my mom and her siblings in.
Mm.
And until I knew the story, I was like, damn, so you mean to tell me that this shit is just encoded in my DNA? And not to make light of it or say like, oh, just do you go out here and swing it around willy-nilly, but like there are things that happen that we can't explain for the simple fact that the oral history of family stopped being passed on. It stopped
Mm.
being everybody gathered around grandma at the dinner table listening to old stories to, oh, I gotta bust this move over here, so and so gotta go to basketball practice, sis gotta do this, granny got dialysis and all of this shit going, like they, I don't want to keep blaming outside entities, but they've made it to where our lives are so fractured that we can't mend it all together. We
Yeah.
can't stir the pot of who we are. And hell, when those story times go on, like ancestors are watching.
Yeah.
They're present.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, tell that shit. Yeah, I know, I did that. Half the
Hmm.
time, even if they were wrong, they'd be like, yeah, without me doing that, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I just had like there was a movie on Netflix. I can't put my finger on what the exact name of it was, but it was there was a piano that was made by the great grandfather or something like that, and it was made for the slave owner's wife. Well, she
Mm,
ended up passing away, and I guess it got like shuffled around, and then they ended up taking it. But the piano itself in the house, the house was like it was possessed with like the white folks. And so like she didn't let anybody play it. The brother was trying to sell it or whatever, and she's playing a piano, and as she's, playing on the mom is playing on the piano, she's invoking all of the ancestors. So you see like they start coming around her, and they're like they have their hands on her because she's asking them for their help to
yep.
get rid of this white demon from out of their house because he's like terrorizing everything and everybody. So I was like,
Yep.
that was also a very powerful movie too. I don't know if you've ever seen it, if you know what I'm talking about. I
I
watched it
think I
one time and
know
I
what
was
you're
like,
talking
I got
about, but I've
chills
never seen
watching
it.
that part. Huh?
I said I think I know what you're talking about, but I've never seen it. But even when you think about Sinners, Sammy's
Same thing.
performance was exactly that.
Same exact, yep, same exact thing. So yeah, I definitely okay. I don't want to get distracted because I was gonna ask you something about you talked about the only way to really change how things are, right, is for people to get that information. Like they have to know their history. So I guess my question to you is how can people find what was lost when we've lost all of our record keepers, right? Because now, like with the way that everything is, the only dumbass stories that are being transferred down is like the time Beyonce had Blue Ivy and then the twin. You know what I'm saying? That's none of that is relevant. I mean, it is, but it's not.
Right.
It's relevant in a different way, but not as far as like familiar history. And then
Hmm.
a lot of people they don't have the money to go and pay for like genetic coding. Me personally, I don't really trust that because I think that they're taking people's DNA and making clones. That's just my own conspiracy. I'm just saying
Um,
you gotta be vigilant with these folks. You gotta stay woke.
I mean, you're right, but in the same token, every single time you get your blood drawn, every single time you spit in the tube, we don't know what the hell happens once they walk out that door with that shit.
That is true.
And then me being in the army, I was getting poked in the arm every single month.
Mm,
So
mm,
they've always known who I was. I just didn't. So long as we don't know, they can know and they won't give a damn. They
right.
actually want to suppress those ancestral recalls. They want to suppress you walking in your ancestors' shoes and doing what they did because the moment 1,000 Gullah Geechee, the moment 1,000 Mayan descendants, the moment 1,000 Olmec descendants all show up and they just throwing that shit at all of these people that's been tormenting us for centuries,
Yeah. It's
it's
up. It's up.
rats. That's why
Yeah.
the plantations is burning up now.
Hmm.
Like our ancestors literally done hit them with every fucking element within the last 2 weeks. What are we talking about?
Right.
They're showing us that yeah, you may
They're
want
like,
to
we're
stick
here.
to
We're just waiting
religion
on y'all to wake up. Yeah.
louder for the
Yeah.
people in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. But
and
we've
and
seen it with so many different things. Like so there's been storms and like the path that the exact path. And I'm like, I don't believe in coincidence. Like that's just me personally. I don't think that there's any such thing as coincidence. I think that everything
right.
happens because it's supposed to. And sometimes it's like a very loud message that hey, it's like a tap on the shoulder. Like y'all see it.
Yeah.
Y'all see it.
And
Mm,
even in that, like Bobby Hemmett said, like shit, the more you learn and know, sometimes you might just wish you didn't know nothing because the way that I see it, I'm literally in a middle ground. Like, okay, either apocalypse is on the way or they out here playing in our faces to make it seem as though it's on the way. But the only thing that we can be certain of is that the order of things changes every few hundred years.
oh, and
So
we're
whether
on the bridge of that right now. We're on the brink of that. It's happening, and that's why you see all these weird that whole project 2025, in my opinion, that is a way because they can slow things down, but they can't stop it.
Mhm.
They can never
I
stop
mean
it. Like
timeline
right,
jumping is such a real thing, and not only that, like if you don't know numerology or astrology, you are lost in the sauce just letting the years go by not realizing when you should be making specific moves. Like our ancestors didn't just they weren't just migrating around for no reason. They weren't nomadic for no reason. They knew
yeah,
that okay, the stars are going to shift that way in about 6 weeks, so we got to get going now.
yeah,
Okay, we can't settle here because the soil isn't fertile, the water doesn't flow close enough to us, and
mm,
we're on a ley line that'll cause X, Y, and Z to happen.
yeah,
It was never them just settling in places that had no spiritual value. Everything that they did was calculated.
yeah.
Every move they made was calculated. And again, going back to the Dogon, they said that they came down here. Whether you want to call them
Yeah.
angels, whether you want to call them aliens, no matter what you want to call the sky people, they came down here and told them, okay, this is what's going on beyond where your eye can see.
Hmm.
But everything that we teach you, live by this and see how it turned out for you.
Exactly.
And to this day, the Dogon are still existing in Mali, living the
Hmm.
same way that they were. Like, even when you look at formations like Stonehenge or Zep Tepi, like all the what is it? Adam's calendar. You look at these things and you're like, how did they move these large stones? And what the hell does any of this mean? But then they start to want to differentiate, oh, the Mayan calendar, the Aztec calendar, the Olmec calendar. But then you see the similarities and they're like, oh no, they can't be the same people.
But they are. It keeps happening because someone is trying to show you, like, hey, this is possible for one. And it's funny because when I stopped watching the History Channel was around the time that I was learning about all of this, like metaphysics, and I forget the one. He was a Caucasian man. Where was it? Out in like the South or somewhere in Mississippi, where he built that one. You know who I'm talking about, right? He built the
I
one
believe
area.
so vaguely.
So it was like a an area, right? And it looks like a little like a hut. That's what it looks like.
Mhm.
And he reinvented the wheel to show people like it is possible to move heavy material without having huge cranes and stuff like that. Like he made that his life's work to say like, hey, like
Mhm.
this is how they did it. Like this is how they made the pyramids. Let me
Well,
re-show
I
you.
mean,
The other guy,
even
Atlanta, what's his name? The one that they locked up and they said that he was they
oh,
tried
you
to
talking about
accuse
Malachi
him.
York?
Malachi York. He
Yep.
did the
Mark
same thing
Lamont
too.
Hill
He
was
made
one of
those
his
big ass
followers too.
pyramids, and they saw that and they were like, "Oh hell no, you gotta go. He gotta go." You know what I mean?
But
So
it wasn't even just like reinventing the wheel. I feel like that was a ploy to actually take away from the fact that our ancestors were using sound and water and
mm,
the ether to make things happen. Like
yeah,
they try to paint Nikola Tesla as not even an actual person that existed for the simple fact that he tapped into everything the Egyptians knew and recreated it.
yeah.
Like the man died with 80 trunks full of patents in his hotel room.
So whatever
The
happened to the
FBI,
patent?
the FBI took all 80 trunks, said they only found 20. They gave the other 60 to Croatia, and that's how they started his museum over in Croatia.
Mm,
Now, for the people that love conspiracy theories, the planes that was just falling out of the sky, they said that he had a very specific patent that was like a photon weapon. It could shoot down aircraft from 250 miles away, undetected.
wow. So someone probably put that test. Yeah.
Look,
Mm,
we're
well,
too far along in the future to not have everything that that man was talking about. Like people want to chase down Tartaria as if we weren't told that they were the Mongols and the Ottomans. People want to talk about Turtle Island and all this shit, but they're not talking about how the World's Fairs was actually them just showing off all the shit that we had here and then destroying it. Like everything that that man was talking about, we had it.
yeah.
Those cathedrals don't have gold and brass at the top of them for no reason in the way that they do.
In the
Like
shape and
even
the
the
structure.
story, even the story of the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower was really about to be the world's relay system for electricity
Mm,
without wires. Like you can't tell me that our ancestors weren't more further along technologically than we were. Like
Yeah.
the white archaeologists and all of these historians want to make it seem as though we've always been primitive. No, we had libraries, and hell, even before we had libraries, we were telling stories that were never forgotten because we never had distractions, and all we did was live by the ways of our parents and their parents.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I feel like we're the primitive ones. We really are, because shit, you tell me to make a Tesla coil, I'm gonna ask you what the hell do I need first?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know we kind of diverged from the original question too. this
As long as you know it.
is this has been more so a kickback than anything.
Yes, sir.
Um,
It kind of it covered the surface a little bit, but if you remember, you can go ahead and answer it.
yeah, just knowing the history, not just your own history, but knowing the whole of history, how advanced it was, how they lived in order to keep the balance. And that's another thing too. Our We have so many interferences, whether they're direct or indirect. That interference is kind of diluting the connection to source, to the ancestors. And it's like, even when they are knocking on the door and they're knocking hard, it's like,
You can't hear him.
I'm
Yeah.
not picking up. I'm not picking up. And it's
Hmm.
not on purpose. We not disrespecting y'all, but y'all know what they down here doing.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
hell,
Mm-mm.
even
Like,
even the
on me
effects,
lifeline.
yeah, even the effects of slavery and how that changed our genetic coding and our DNA and how we react to things. Like, they literally made it to where we're pitted against one another, but every time we see somebody that don't look like us, we're the most hospitable.
Yeah.
That's not by chance,
Yeah.
because that's us around the world. Like,
Collectively. No, yeah. And
we're the most
again,
loving but the most hated,
yeah.
and that's how it's always been.
Agreed.
But they know that we're great soldiers, and if they can break us down to a point where we can be controlled, control them as long as you can, and then kick them out the door.
Yeah.
That's their protocol. So we have to break their protocol. We have to begin to reconnect with the environment. Like, hell, I'm only this light because I haven't been outside in so long. but but naturally I am the color of a fucking penny. And it's just like, I'm tapped in a way of logic and reasoning, and I feel like my connection is so strong because of all of the people that came before me.
Mhm.
But if I was actually outside, hell, even right now, recharging, it would be completely different. Like, I feel powerful because I know where I come from, who I am, things like that.
Yes.
But without the dirt that we come from, is pointless.
Exactly.
It's 90% of remembering who you are, but it's 10% of reattaching yourself.
Hmm.
Because even with the roots still there, like, if we stay under the casted shadow of the tree, there's no real growth there.
Yes.
Like, we can stay, I can stay in Michigan, other people can stay where they're from so long as they want to, but I didn't realize it until, like, I was doing assimilation work for Amazon. Like, I went to the Smoky Mountains to see them while I was on a job, just on one of my off days. And after that, like, so much came back to me. I went to Virginia. And then when I actually started to find documents about people coming over free people coming over from the UK on boats to Virginia. It was like, all right, that
Wait,
makes a lot
what?
of sense why I felt like I was at home. Like
Right.
it, people don't even realize that half the time when they travel, when they pick up an interest, when they do anything, that they're just like, oh, I'm out here living and experiencing, and you're really retracing steps.
Mm.
But I do feel as though that when you come to a point like I had came to with records and everything, because after the Trail of Tears, again, nobody was documented unless it was a census. And then the first person born in a hospital was my mom. Like when you have that kind of circumstance and there is no amount of digging that can be done, my route worked for me. It may not work for everybody else, and everybody may not bring themselves to a point where they believe in that, because a lot of people don't believe in DNA tests. And even in those professionals saying, oh, we sat down Samuel L. Jackson and told him he was a Bantu and Ubuntu, and like, and it was just all for fanfare. They're doing that to throw you off the trail,
Right.
because so long as you continuously believe them and not the people that look like you, where are we actually going to get? You can't get far trusting people that don't share your background. They share our background, but they don't share it in the same way.
Exactly.
Like they'll say, "Oh, well, I'm related to Alexander the Great or Augustus or this, that, and the third." Okay, well, where are your Etruscan ancestors at?
Mm.
And I don't mean the ones that look pale. I mean, where are those dark skinned ones at? Like people want to argue me down about the Phoenicians and how they only went to Sumer and started Samaria, but there are Phoenician head busts found in Brazil.
Mm.
Like, yeah, we can debunk being brought over here in slave ships all we want to, but the same people that debunk that are the same people that are saying, oh, well, there's no way that they could have come over from Egypt to the Caribbean or the Americas. How? When that's how Columbo got his route. He went to Slaver's Bay and he stole a map.
Mm.
And not only that, like we look at him like, yeah, it is fuck Christopher Columbus, but he was one of us.
Yeah.
He was one of us that went rogue. And then Elizabeth, who was also one of us, she was like, hey, I thought he was just going over there to do a simple job. He over there dismembering people, feeding their kids to alligators, all type of shit. Go get this dude.
You got a line out of pocket.
Like he was literally an enemy of the state, of
Hmm.
the crown. Like, and then
Yeah.
even getting into Haitian history, like I was arguing with I won't say I was arguing because I left that shit alone after a minute. Somebody was talking about Ibrahim Traore and how uh he needs to send aid to Haiti. And then somebody was like, well, Haiti has to stand up on their own.
Mm.
How can they with the IMF, the Red Cross, a dozen former presidents on their neck? And
Exactly.
then if you don't know the history of Saint Domingue, you're not gonna know why they hate Haiti so much. Like they might tell you about the leaders that they caught and killed, but they don't want to tell you that Dessalines was the emperor.
Mm.
They don't want to tell you that the Caribbean states were all one big union. Like I'm talking Haiti, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, all of it. Like my great grandma is was Frank Lucas's aunt, and they came from Trinidad.
Wow.
She was Taino. and they came from Trinidad. They were free. So, like all the other free people from Haiti, when they came to Louisiana, they weren't treated like everybody else.
Mm.
But even though 90% of my family was free, I did have Maroons in my blood. But those Maroons are just as powerful as the free people. Because whether you're free, freed, or other, it did not matter. They stripped us of our ways of life. And that is the only thing that people don't want to acknowledge.
Mm.
But I truly believe that the way that I've found these names, the way that I'm retracing history, and even though it's bits and pieces, because a lot of people don't even understand that all of the mummies that were found here were either eaten, used as gator bait, or turned into lead-based paints, which is fucking insane when you think about that.
Yeah, because now they're scattered amongst the land in ways that they shouldn't be, and ultimately stuck.
Imagine buying some blue paint and it was really a pharaoh.
No, yeah, that's
Like, that's the kind of reality that our ancestors went through. Like,
yeah,
yeah, our living can suck at times, but half of the atrocities that they had to live through and watch and shit like that is disrespectful as hell to say, oh, ain't no bit of me African, ain't no bit of me from anywhere else but here.
exactly.
And that is exactly why a lot of these people will remain miserable. They'll continuously be going through this vicious cycle of, oh, I know I'm indigenous, I'm aborigine, but it's always going to be a but.
Yeah, because you
There's
don't really
there's
know.
always going to be there's always going to be the my mama's from here, my granny's from here, X, Y, and Z is from here, I'm from here.
Hmm.
But then you're going to get to this point in time where, okay, you may have went 10,000 years into the past, but if they claim your matrilineal line is over 300,000 years old, where's the rest of it?
Yeah, right.
And I remember some guy had told me, "Oh, you shouldn't worry about your DNA. You're your father's son. Learn about your father's people. You call yourself indigenous, sir, but you don't realize that everything was based on the matrilineal line."
That's what passes down a lot. That, and I think that to bring it back full circle to what we were initially talking about is, you get, genetically speaking, that pain, that suffering, the hurt, all of that, the traumas, those do come from your, matriarch side. It's the women that are passing these things down, right? And I think that men are not equipped to handle these things, right? Because they didn't see the women handle it in the right ways either. And so,
Right.
that's the one thing that I hope that over time that collectively people are able to, for one, come to terms with, because I think that there's a lot of fear and resentment and hatred um, in both men and women. You know what I mean? But since we're on the topic of men's mental health, I think a lot of that has to start with men have to be able to resolve the mother wounds. You know what I'm saying? We a lot of us, we have both sides. We have mother and father
Hmm.
wounds. But unfortunately
Hmm.
for, our men, a lot of that pain comes from the women that they had to, you know what I'm saying, that they had to depend on to raise them. And something that you
Or the
had
lack
mentioned
thereof.
earlier today, and I wanted to kind of like just say thank you for acknowledging that, because a lot of people don't, right? There are so many broken men that are so broken that they there's a disconnect. So they're not able to have compassion for what their mother and their father went through, right? You were talking earlier about, your mother's tribulations and the things that she went through, and even your father. And I think a part of healing is to be able to, you have to be able to relate, not relate, but to understand, like, yes, things happen to us in our life that we don't like, right? A lot of us could have had better upbringings, but you can't change that because that's a part of that cycle. So it's up to you to
Right.
break it or to continue or repeat it. So a part of it is saying, yes, like, I don't like the way you parented me, but I understand why you chose that route. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dad, I don't like the fact that you weren't present and that you were always drunk, but I understand why. I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't
Yeah.
heal until you've done that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Even looking at that, like I've had family members say like, "Oh, well, why you give him so much praise? Because he was always like this or like that." I'm like, but wasn't he always there?
right.
Didn't he love me? Like,
He showed up the way that he was able to.
nobody's love is perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that too. Like
Mhm.
as a child, you begin to process and do things in that same way
Mhm.
until you see how it affects somebody. Like even you knowing how it affects you is one thing. You may have the logic behind it and you might have this whole explanation down pat. But
Mhm.
until you have to look somebody in the face and you've caused them that same kind of pain, you don't understand that shit for real.
Yeah,
Like,
yep. And I have a saying that I, often say. I think people don't understand what it feels like until it's done to them, right? And I'm not saying it makes it right, but it's very true because humans, like you had mentioned earlier, we kind of learn based on like not failure, but like you have to fail in one way to an extent in order
mhm,
to learn and to rise above that, right?
right.
Um, we are at the 2 hour mark. So I just wanted to attribute that I feel like I've learned so much from you today. I really, really, really look forward to hopefully being able to do like another episode
Mhm.
and talk more about like I want to learn, I want to pick your brain. So I want to know like all about all of the history and the theological stuff that you know. I feel like yeah, you definitely contributed and added a lot of value here today. And I definitely appreciate you for your time. Before I let you go, I just want to ask you one last question. And then I do want you to tell the audience where they can find your book. I posted it in the description, but just tell them anyway. So the last question is what do you hope for Black men 10 years from now? And how does the work that you contribute, how does that work contribute to your vision?
10 years from
How
now,
does your
I
work
hope
contribute to that
that
vision?
10 years from now, I really hope that if it's not a collective effort, like a good amount of the collective
Mm,
coming together and setting aside all of the distracting factors and the divisionary factors, the moment we can lay our swords that are aimed at one another down and actually listen to one another, and because the FBAs have a lot of history,
mm,
the Pan Africanists have a lot of history. The people in the middle, like me, that just want everybody to get along, we're like, okay, well, they're right, you're right, but there's also this. Like that's part of our descent now is that regardless of what the other side of the fence, whatever they believe in, they know that they can all sit down, the aristocrat, the Zionist, the this, the that, they can all sit down and come up with some sort of plan.
yeah.
But that plan isn't just a 6 month to a year plan.
Mm,
They're thinking 100 years ahead.
yeah.
We have to start to heal the wounds. And then once those wounds are being patched up and we all have a clear, concise idea of what it is that we should be doing together as a collective, then we can move forward.
Exactly.
Because it looking at Africa, it's taken Ibrahim Traore, who's all of 36, 37 years old, to address leaders that are twice his age in the Nigerian Obas and Kenya and a whole lot of places.
Mm.
The man is about to unify Africa.
Mm.
That's never been done. And Bob Marley was singing about that in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we need to be able to regulate our emotions, whether that is you learning it from a therapist or going and sitting down with your brother, your uncle, your mom, dad, whomever. Start those uncomfortable conversations. Start those uncomfortable conversations. If they go left, step away from them, come back. Like, all of the stuff that I was talking about, me and my mom, I didn't talk to the woman for 3 years.
Mm.
And now it's at the point where I'm calling her every day, like, hey, you know this, you know that, like, I just found out this about such and such, yada blah blah. Like, the moment you yourself want to heal yourself and not in a gateway of spirituality where it's just really masking all of your pain and what you've been through, because that's what a
Yeah.
lot of people do too. Like, I may
Oh
be
yeah, they
spiritual,
try
but
to
there are
toxic
some,
positivity. Mm-hmm.
not even
Yeah.
just the toxic positivity, but they use spirituality as a way to deflect, like, their shadow self while
Oh
preaching to other people about doing shadow work.
yeah. Yeah.
um the healing, the history, and then the wanting to be a community member.
Yeah.
Those are the three key assets that we can all look at and analyze and pick up on, because there are plenty of people who do not agree with one another in the world, and they're actively working to keep themselves in power
Yeah.
regardless of what the other person has going on.
Exactly.
But we
Exactly.
all have common themes, common atrocities, common cultures, that you would think that, you put all of that stew in that pot, that would make a great dish, but it's been weaponized against us to create poison.
Yeah.
So long as people stay in the mind frame that they're in, it all starts within. It starts with each individual, because I mean, whether we're individual or we're standing united, we're all one.
Yeah.
We may look different. We can say that, oh, you come from over there, I come from over here, yada blah blah. There's somebody in the world looking like me.
Yeah.
There's somebody in the world looking like you.
Hmm.
And shit, we're the only children of the sun. So we're the only one that can withstand these sun rays, these solar flares that's popping off right now.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Hey, food for thought for a different day for a different conversation. But I do appreciate your time today. I appreciate all the information and the perspective that you brought on. I feel like I hope that it could at least reach one person and help one person and get them to kind of think about, some of the work that they could be doing internally. I feel like my job is done. Um, I wanted to, good heavens. Yeah. Um, your book, you said it's linked on your
Yes. The Darkest Rose is on my Facebook.
Facebook.
Um, but you can find Curse and The Darkest Rose on Amazon. You can find them on Kindle. On Kindle Unlimited, they are both free. Um,
Okay.
if you don't have Kindle Unlimited, that's the way that you pay for it, for the ebook.
Mm.
Just being completely honest, the ebook does not have the same effort put into it.
You
It
said
is it
basically
is simply
just buy the physical copy, y'all. Don't be cheap now.
I
Come
mean,
on now.
even even in buying the physical copy is not gonna cost you
An arm and a
too
leg.
much.
Yeah.
Like that's not my purpose in it. Especially the second book. I actually have author's copy
Let's
sitting
get.
right here.
Hey,
This
look at
is
that.
this is the paperback and
Okay.
this is the hardcover. I
Wow.
specifically chose different
Wow.
covers for the second book. The ebook is a photo of me and my mom. The paperback, this is me and my brother. May you rest in peace. And then this one is our family photo that
Wow.
everybody loved to steal. So we had a million copies of them. um, and I just did that because the second, not the second. Well, yeah, I actually consider them tiers. Second tier, the Long Live Rock cover, the blue cover with me and my brother. It's cheap for the simple fact that I wanted to honor him, and just to have people sit down and read. There's a mix of poetry and prose. Um, I'm very introspective. I'm very projective with my reflections as well. There's so many different ways of writing and understanding that go into this. Eventually, probably next month or the month after, the epilogue for both books will be on the way. But
Yeah.
it's not for money. Yeah, we need money to survive, but I wrote everything that I wrote. I tell the stories that I tell for the simple fact that I know that I'm not the only one that's going through them, especially from a men's perspective.
Mm.
As a man, whether you are into the Bible, the Quran, whatever, all of those men mentioned, you're not exclusive from those walks of life at all.
Mm.
You're not exclusive from sexual abuse. You're not exclusive from domestic abuse. You're not like you can be any person at any point in time based on your own decisions. And instead of writing a book projecting my blame onto everybody else, I lay out clearly, okay, I know that you had this going on or whatever, what have you, but this is how it affected me. This is what it led to. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I am none of those things. And I guess the central theme or message would be like reconnect with your inner child.
Yes.
Because every single time that you're embarrassed, every single time that you get mad, every single time that you're sad, people may not admit it or even realize it, but they are stepping directly back into an age range in where they had a specific trauma.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
not just psychology, but that's metaphysics.
Very
Like
true.
it, all of it is interconnected.
Mm.
But people want to break it down to modern science, and it's so much deeper than that. Like
Indeed.
everything that I've written is connected to an ancestor in some way that I had no idea of.
Mm.
It's all about wholeness. It is like if you don't feel whole, you'll like the smile on your face won't be genuine. You'll look yourself in the mirror. I looked myself in the mirror for 2.5 whole years after going through domestic shit. And I was like, who the fuck are you?
Mm.
Like being able to see the same face that I saw for 28 years,
Mm.
didn't know who I was.
Mm.
For the simple fact that I had to repair my whole paradigm. Like going through stuff as a child is one thing, but knowing how all of that affected you and then you grow up to be a man and you do something similar and then that shame kicks in, that shame is worse than anything
Yeah.
because it's like how like it's not just you the adult but it's the kid saying how did you get to this point and allow this thing to happen when you've seen it, but then the
Exactly.
adult is responding to the kid like bro, you know all the shit we've been through and how we got
Mhm.
here. But shit, you couldn't handle this, so you created me. The inner child is creating the man. That's what a
Yes.
lot of people don't acknowledge and realize either. The inner child creates the man. Whatever you allow that child to go through, the damages that that child has to withstand, if you don't check the ego and the personas that come after, you'll whirlwind out of control. And that's exactly what I did. Like my 20s have been nothing but me spiraling out of control, one relationship after the other, one job after the other, experience after experience. And at some point, you have to choose to stop it. Like the kid creates the man, but the man is the one that has to walk backward to that kid. I stated in my epilogue, without giving too much away, you if you get lost in that abyss, the kid will sit there. The kid will sit there and wait for the man to come back.
Mm.
The kid is the one with the actual light. But if the man doesn't want to seek out that light, you'll continue walking through the darkness. You'll never reach the end of that tunnel.
Exactly.
But I do want to say before, we got to get out of here, that I appreciate you for your time, for letting me talk, for, for letting me ramble. Yeah, I'm willing to do this whenever you need me back. Whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna do this again soon. We're gonna have to set up a. I wish Facebook had an option to like turn off calls. I don't know why people think it's appropriate to like call you on Messenger. It's just weird and it's creepy. And I wish you guys would just freaking stop. Um, it's not cool. But I definitely appreciate your time and for everything that you've shared on this platform today. I do want to do a part 2 very soon. So probably sometime during like the end of the week, we can come up with, a plan of action to do this again. Probably next Sunday, a little earlier.
Look, you know where I'm at. I'm with it.
All right, Bam. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to take you down from the stage, and once I'm done with the outro, we can try to reconnect real quick.
All right.
All right. All right, guys. So I really hope that you guys got something from this episode. If you did, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Tell me what was your biggest takeaway from this episode. Also, make sure you guys go check out my friend on Facebook at Bam Woods. Make sure you guys check the description. I have his links to both of his books in the description. And also, if you guys find that this might help someone, make sure that you share the video. Until next time, okay, bye.